So what's next for the Oklahoma Sooners? The Oklahoma Sooners are pursuing a wide receiver in the transfer portal. We'll discuss more of that coming up in the next 2 segments here on Locked On Sooners. Thank you for joining us live on Sunday night as we're getting ahead of this David Stone stuff. All that's coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Easter to everybody. Hope it's been a wonderful day. You've been able to find some dry spots in your Easter Sunday. But Jay, I wanted to read what Todd Bates had to say about this. He said, choosing a university to attend is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. Fans love this game, but many never experience the pain or challenges that players go through, especially in this new era of college football. Love for somebody comes out as hate when you are hurt and thinking about what you are losing. We are blessed to have David Stone, aka Agent Zero, continuing here. And I know Sooner Nation will embrace him as you did when he chose to be a Sooner out of high school. Boomer!
Everybody hype. Sooner. You know it. And I love that Bates went out and said something about this and put something out there, because a lot of us were, I understand fans being sad. We were live when the announcement came down, and one of the conversations that fans were asking, like, okay, so why should we continue to support, NIL, and why should we do that? You do NIL and everything specifically because you're supporting your school and any circumstance that happens. It's like buying stock with a company that you like. And the difference here is that it honestly ain't making you no money. It's just really something that you enjoy. So for that, what you want to do is make sure that you're there to support the school and pray the coaching staff figures it out and gets you exactly what you need in order to be successful. And so it's always unfortunate. I hate it. I hate that, we have to deal with this, while at the same time, I get it. The game's the game. We finally found a way to, make sure players can get taken care of in some capacity. But people took NIL, masked it as pay to play, and they figured out a way to circumvent the system. And it's all because the NCAA didn't actually have a legitimate plan. So the good thing is we're past that. The House settlement hits. This should be the last summer of really ridiculousness. We should see some consistency going forward. But hey, now the Sooners need to start focusing on what we need. We got a few positions we could probably use some additional components of. I think Brent Venables and Jim Nagy did an interview recently. And John, one of the statements was, you probably can find a need at every position. So we're going to categorize what's the most important and then go after what we can use. If we can find a player that changes the game for us, paraphrasing, they're going to go after them. And it feels like we're probably going to get there. There's a couple of positions we could use right now. Let's put it that way.
So where do you think Oklahoma goes next from here?
So we definitely could use one more wide receiver. We're going to talk about that offer in the next segment, but there are some visitors actually pulling up on Monday as well. I think a tight end and a defensive lineman is still coming. Now, hear me out. You may be asking, Jay, we just landed David Stone back. He just withdrew from the portal. Why would we go after a defensive lineman? Well, we've always said we wanted one more defensive lineman, mainly someone at the David Stone or younger age, because we could use one more good body to develop with a Trent Wilson. Because keep in mind, just because the House settlement hits ain't gonna mean the transfer portal gonna change that much. I think if anything, the proposed was to make the portal only have one window, which would be the winter window, or when the season ends, like right after the national championship, the portal will open and kids can do their transfer and stuff, which will be during winter workouts. If that's the case, you're still going to have players in the portal available. Still going to have players you can go after. So for us, a tight end will be good, just one more possibly, and then we can just let everybody fight it out. But we definitely could use one more defensive lineman. We can get a defensive lineman that's young and a linebacker. Just youth components, I think we'll be set. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you're looking, I need to find guys that have several years of eligibility left. I don't know necessarily if you need to go after 1 year rentals. except for maybe wide receiver. And,
Fair point.
and I don't even know about tight end, dude. Like after Kojiel went to Houston, I was like, and injuries went to Texas. I'm like, okay. Like those were the two guys. Those were the two guys at tight end I felt like upgraded the unit significantly. I don't know if there's anybody else out there that upgrades the tight end position significantly better than what it is right now. Wide receiver, if you can go find me a wide receiver, great. They're going to be offering they've offered a wide receiver. They're going to be pursuing one. But again, if Jaden Gibson's around, if Giovanni Gibson's back and ready for the season, I feel okay about wide receiver. Now, you don't want to go into fall camp still a little bit uncertain as to who's going to be starting on the opposite side of, you don't really have anybody on the outside right now that's slated to start. So you still have to kind of figure that out. You've got some interesting options in, Keontae Lewis and Elijah Thomas. You've got an interesting option in Emmanuel Choice. I think at slot, you're really good with Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, and Jacob Jordan. You're set in the slot. So you need to find a guy on the outside that I think helps, improve your depth and improves your talent. Cornerback. I think cornerback's still a place where they could potentially look to add a guy. And kicker. Everybody's talking about kicker in the YouTube live comment sections. And I know that a guy from old Reggie Powers, the third's high school, entered the transfer portal. And so there's a potential option there. I think he was at Miami of Ohio or
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
And that kid had a solid season. So, maybe they'll make a little run at him, but I think you could afford to find somebody at kicker to add some depth and some competition because you don't really have an answer based on everything that we're hearing out of spring ball.
Yeah, when it comes to kicker, the one thing on that is really is a very mental game. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be able to play the mental game, and that's when you start finding these kickers that you're hoping for that could stand out for you. And so I'm totally here for a kicker like, the one from Miami of Ohio, regardless. When it comes to kicker, I don't care what school you came from. Mm-hmm. Can you make a 50-yarder? And do you have a really good percentage in making your field goals? If you do, that means you probably won most of the mental game. So then at that part, I don't have a reason to complain, right, John? Like you're doing what you need to do. So kicker is a need and I think that kicker really is a need because our kickers are very young. We have a freshman and a sophomore. Freshman and a redshirt freshman. So we have very young kickers. Go ahead and get you one of those just to make sure we're solidified there. Wide receiver, let's talk about this offer. I think that's probably the player that there's a reason why Oklahoma's doing it, and it's probably not what you think.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about Keelan Marion coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.